Hello, my name is Arnold, and you are welcome to my YouTube channel Pawn to Pro, where we take you from beginner level to IM level in chess. Uh, Today I'm starting a new series on basic chess concept, and today's video will be on castling. Like, share, and subscribe as we learn chess together. As you know, the king is the most important piece in your chess army. Protecting your king from attack is how you keep from losing the game of chess. Because it's so important, there's a special move called castling. Castling is the only time in which you are allowed to move two of your pieces, a king and a rook in one move. Here is a setup with only here is a board Here is a board setup with only the white king and two white rooks. You can castle either to the king side, which is called short castling, or to the queen side, which is called long castling. To castle to the king side, first move your king two spaces towards the rook to g1, 1, 2, and then move the rook to the other side of the king on f1. And this is how we castle short castle. This is a king side castling, short castle. Let's do it again. To castle to the king side, first move your king two spaces towards the rook to g1, and then move the rook to the other side of the king to f1. That is king side castling or short castle. To castle to the queen side, do the same thing. Move the king two squares towards the rook to c1, and move the rook to the other side of the king on d1. That is queen side castling or long castle. From black point of view, this is king side castling, 1, 2. This is king side castling, and this is queen side castling, 1, 2. In a chess game, castling moves the king away from the center of the board, where it is more vulnerable to attack. Now, white castle and black castle. Note how much safer the kings are after they have castled. They look more safe. It is usually a good idea to castle early in a game, both to protect the king and give the rook a chance to control the center file. Whenever you castle, you activate a rook to sometimes or most times to control a center file. Here, white did a long castle or a queenside castle and is controlling this file. There are four important rules that govern castling. There are four important rules that govern castling. Rule 1. The king and the rook may not have moved from the starting squares. Rule 1. The king and the rook may not have moved from the starting squares. So in this position of white, white cannot castle to either side because both rooks have moved from the starting squares. Even if one of the rooks moves back, white still cannot castle. Rule 2. All of the spaces between the king and the rook must be unoccupied or empty. All the squares between the king and the rook must be unoccupied. In this diagram, white cannot castle kingside because the knight is in the way. But white can castle queenside because all of the spaces between the king and the rook are empty. Rule 2. All of the spaces between the rook and the king must be empty. So white can castle queenside. Rule 3. The king cannot be in check. Rule 3. The king cannot be in check. On this board setup, it will appear that white king can castle kingside because, or even queenside, because neither the rook nor the king has moved from its starting square, and the spaces between the rook and the king are empty. However, the white king is currently in check from the black bishop on b4, so he cannot castle. Rule 3. The king cannot be in check. Rule 4. The squares that the king passes over cannot be under attack. Rule 4. The squares that the king passes over cannot be under attack. And since you can never move your king into a check, the squares of which is moving cannot be under attack either. On this diagram, the spaces between the king and the rook on the queen side are open. However, two of the squares are under attack. The d1 square is under attack from the black bishop on g4. So the white king cannot pass over it. And the c1 square is under attack from the rook on c8. So the king cannot land on it. So white cannot castle long because two of these squares are under attack. Let's go over it once again. The four rules governing castling are: 1. The king and the rook may not have moved from the starting squares. The king and the rook may not have moved from their starting squares. Rule 2. All spaces between the king and rook must be empty. Rule 2. All spaces between the king and the rook must be empty. Rule 3. Rule 3. The king cannot be in check. Rule 3. The king cannot be in check. And rule 4. Rule 4 will be like this. That's the rule 4 like this. Rule 4 is that the squares the king will pass. The squares the king will pass. D1 and C1. The squares the king will pass may not be under attack, nor can the square on which the king will land. So the squares it will pass should not be under attack, and the squares on which it will land it shouldn't be under attack. So let's solidify this concept, this new chess concept of castling as we go over more drills. So buckle up and let's go over more drills to solidify the concept of castling. In this drill, can white castle long, or can he castle short, or white cannot castle at all? Three options. Can white castle long? Let's try long. No. Why? Because the square you pass over is under attack. Can white castle short? No, because the square he'll be landing on is under attack. So white cannot castle at all. Of course, the first rule is that the king and the rook should be in a starting position. They are there, and the spaces between the king and the rook should be empty. They are there, but then the squares he'll be passing over is under attack, and the squares he'll be landing on is under attack. So in this position, white cannot castle. Another drill. Can black castle long, or short, or not at all? Let's check. The rooks are in a starting position. There are no spaces between the king and the rook. There are a lot of spaces between the king and the rook. There are no piece blocking the spaces between the king and the rook. Can black castle long? No. Why? Because this square is under attack from this rook. Can black castle shot? Sure, because there are no pieces blocking the space between the king and the rook, and the king would not be on attack when black castle on a king side shot. So in this position, black can castle shot or king side castle. Can white castle long? Can white castle long? Yes, white can castle long. The bishop is on attacking the g1 square, so white cannot castle short. He can castle long, and there are no pieces blocking the spaces here. So in this position, white can castle long. Can black castle short? Of course, he can castle long because the rook is not in the starting position. But can black castle short? The rook is in the starting position, the king is in the starting position. But then the spaces between the king and the rook, there's a knight blocking it. So black cannot castle short unless he develop his knight, and then he can castle short. So in this position, black cannot castle short. In this position, can white castle short? Of course, he cannot castle long. The rook is not in a starting position. So the question is, can white castle short? The king is in the starting position, the rook is in the starting position, and there are clear spaces between the king and the rook. Can white castle short? No. Why? Because the g1 square is on attack from the queen on b6, and white king will be landing on a attack square. So white cannot castle short in this position. In this position, can black castle short? Can black castle short in this position? The rooks are in a starting position. The spaces between the king and the rook are all clear. The spaces are not on attack. But can black castle short? The answer is no. And why? Because the king is not in the starting position. The king's starting position would have been e8 and not d8. Here's where the queen's, this is the queen's starting position, and the king's starting position is e8. So here, black cannot castle. Why? Because his king is not in the starting position. In this position, can white castle short? The king is in the starting position, the rook is in the starting position, the spaces between the king and the rook is unoccupied. So can white castle short? No. Why? Because the f1 square is under attack by black bishop on a6. So white cannot jump over the square that's under attack. In this position, can black castle short? Yes. Why? One, the king is in the starting position, the rook is in its starting position, the spaces between the king and the rook are unoccupied, and when white castle, his king will not be on a square that's under attack. So of course, white can castle short king side. He move 1, 2, and the rook comes here. The square that's under attack is the h8 square. and the white king will not be reaching that square when it castle. So in this position, black can castle short. In this position, can black castle short? Let's check. Short castle this way. The rook is in the starting position. The king is in the starting position. The squares between the rook and the king are unoccupied. So can black castle short? No. Why? Because the white queen is attacking this square f8, and the king cannot move over a square that's under attack. So then black cannot castle short. Can white castle long? Let's check. The king is in the starting position. The rook is in the starting position. The squares between the king and the rook are unoccupied. So can white castle long? No. Why? Because the king is on a check. The king is being checked. When a king is being checked, you can castle. You must respond to the check. In this position, can white castle long? Let's check. The king is in the starting position. The rook is in the starting position. The squares between the king and the rook are unoccupied. So then white can castle long. The black bishop is attacking the a1 square, and when white castle his king will not be reaching that square. So then white can do a long castle. So in this position, white can do a long castle. Yes, white can castle long. It's possible. Our last drill. Can black castle short? Can black castle short? Let's check. The white king is in the starting position. The rook is still in the starting position. The squares between the king and the rook are occupied. So can black castle short? Now we have to check if the squares are under attack. Yep. The f8 squares is under attack from the a3 bishop. So black cannot castle short in this position. Thanks for joining me in this video on castling, and we'll learn 4 rules that govern castling. Join me on our next chess concept on Passant. Like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.